done?
Jeez. Yeah, my name's Dan. I'm a recovered drug addict. And that word recovered, when I first came around, it was like people were telling me I could never become recovered. I'd always be in recovery. Yeah, I'd always be an addict, which I am. But I've not had an attack of alcoholism for a little while now. And so that's why I describe myself as recovered. And but that wasn't my story for quite a few years. Yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about how I started using. Yeah, I didn't start using drugs to change how I felt as a, you know, I was all right. I was all right as a young, growing up. Normal childhood. I just liked to go out and get drunk and start using cocaine and, you know, recreationally. You know, I enjoyed it. And pills and whatever I could get my hands on, really. But, you know, back then I didn't have any consequences. You know, I might have woke up in the morning and had a bit of a headache and a hangover. But that was about it. You know, I could get on with my day and carry on. And it went on for quite a few years, like weekends. It was fun. I'd go out and have a good time. And I'll turn to page 39 of the big book, and that is it's more about alcoholism. And we work from the big book of alcoholism, Alcoholics Anonymous, sorry. And it describes Fred. Fred is partner in a well-known accounting firm. His income is good. He has a fine home. He is happily married and a father of promising children of college age. He has so attractive a personality that he makes friends with everyone. If ever there was a successful businessman, it is Fred. To all appearance, he is a stable, well-balanced individual. Yet, he is alcoholic. And I relate to Fred. Yeah, I was quite successful in my career, and, you know, I had a nice house, a nice car, good job, well paid, beautiful wife sitting at home. Yeah, I was an alcoholic addict. Yeah, there was nothing that used to keep me from going out and picking up, even when I didn't want to. Yeah, it was like times when I looked at my missus and I thought, you know, I love her to bits now. It's like nothing's changed, but, you know, there was nothing in my life where it would stop me going and picking up. And I was confused by this. I was baffled by this. And it says here he made up his mind to quit drinking altogether. It never occurred to him that perhaps he could not do so, in spite of his character and standing. So, like I say, in my job, I was quite career-driven. I could make choices in my job. I could make choices in my life where, you know, if I wanted to go and do something, I'd do it. Or if I didn't want to do it, you know. But when it came around drinking drugs, there was something not quite right in my brain, and, you know, I just thought it was me being selfish. And for a long time, you know, I just could not figure it out. And I'd try and go through periods where, you know, I'd be all right. Be all right for a little while. Maybe we went away for the weekend and, you know, we had a good weekend, and that was cool. I didn't drink. So maybe I'm all right this time. Yet the day would come where I'd walk out the door, every intention of going to work or something, and I'd go and pick up again. And, you know, I'd be sitting in a lay-by somewhere, or, you know, it don't matter where it was, and I was sitting there thinking, why have I done this again? You know, absolutely baffled at what was going on in my life. It was sending me insane. So yeah, page 35, more about alcoholism, and I'll talk about more about alcoholism. It's chapter 3 in the big book, and this is where you can diagnose yourself, or, you know, of being an alcoholic or an addict. You know, there's a lot of descriptions in here of different experiences of people. So it says, what sort of thinking dominates an alcoholic who repeats time after time the desperate experiment of the first drink? Friends who have reasoned with him after a spree which has brought him to the point of divorce or bankruptcy are mystified when he walks directly into a saloon. Why does he? Of what is he thinking? Fuck me, it was like every time that happened to me, I didn't walk into a saloon, but I'd go down and pick up a bag or pick up a rock or whatever. It doesn't matter what I was using, it was just completely baffling. 9 times out of 10 I wasn't thinking. I know now, but I didn't know back then. I suffer with alcoholism, and relapse is part of the condition. I suffer with a mental blank spot. A peculiar mental twist occurs, and I forget what's happened before and all them consequences. On that, sometimes I do remember, and sometimes that's cool and that stops me. But other times, my brain malfunctions and I'm off, and I've hit the ground running again. In some circumstances we have gone out deliberately to get drunk, feeling ourselves justified by nervousness, anger, worry, depression, jealousy, or the like. But even in this type of beginning, we are obliged to admit that our justification for a spree, which was insanely insufficient in the light of what always happened, we now see that when we began to drink deliberately instead of casually, there was little serious or effective thought during the period of premeditation of what the terrific consequences might be. So that's the blank spot. There was times when I did go out and I did feel like, I've had an argument with the missus, or, I've had a bad day at work, so maybe a night out would be good for me, and I'd start and I'd go for a drink, and I'd forget, even in that situation, what was going to happen. Once I picked up that beer or whatever, I was hitting the ground running. I just could not stop myself using. 9 times out of 10, I'd be on my own, locked away somewhere, not being able to go out in the real world because I was scared. And it's like, if I had a choice in the matter, I would not be doing that. I would not be going to do that to myself time after time. Our behaviour is as absurd and incomprehensible with respect to the first drink as that of an individual with a passion, say, for jaywalking. He gets a thrill out of skipping in front of fast-moving vehicles. He enjoys himself for a few years in spite of friendly warnings. Up to this point, you would label him as a foolish chap having queer ideas of fun. Luck then deserts him and he is slightly injured several times in succession. You would expect him, if he were normal, to cut it out. Presently, he is hit again, and this time he has fractured skull. Within a week after leaving the hospital, a fast-moving trolley car breaks his arm. He tells you he has decided to stop jaywalking for good, so a firm resolution now, I'm not doing this again. But in a few weeks, he breaks both legs. On through the years, this conduct continues, accompanied by his continual promises to be careful or to keep off the streets altogether. Finally, he can no longer work. His wife gets a divorce and he is held up to ridicule. He tries every known means to get the jaywalking idea out of his head. He shuts himself up in an asylum, hoping to mend his ways, but the day he comes out, he races in front of a fire engine which breaks his back. Such a man would be crazy, wouldn't he? It's a pretty similar story for me. It's like I ended up having a seizure after a spree. Hospitalised. I didn't have a clue what had happened to me. I was signed off work for 4 weeks, and for the whole 4 weeks I was sat at home using. The thing that just caused that seizure, I was back doing it again, and it's like, why am I doing this stuff again? It's going to kill me. I knew it was going to kill me, yet I'd go and do it again, and I just could not understand. And I'd try and work it out, and I'd try to do things differently. I'd put things in place, and all this time I sort of hid this from my wife, and eventually it came out, and she started finding stashes round the house, and I'd walk in and something wouldn't be right with me, so she'd ask me, and then she'd search me, and I'd have a bag on me again, and this went on for a little while, and You know, I'd try and convince her not to say anything to anyone. Just, you know, I was sure that I was going to stop. You know, she'd found out, so I was going to stop. And I promised her. And I really, really meant it, because this was killing me, man. And, you know, I meant it. A couple of days later, I'd do it again. And, you know, she's in tears. She's begging me not to use again. And, you know, I'm in tears this time. And I really cannot understand what's going on. So this went on for a little bit longer. And, yeah, I got the sack from work. And I said, this time it's going to be different. I've just been sacked. You know, this is the point of I need to sort my life out. So got another job, and it carried on, and I ended up in rehab, and it was a 30-month. I was in there for 30 months, paid for by my family. That, you know, they tried sorting me out, and 12-step rehab, and you know, this is the first time I got a big book of Alcoholics Anonymous in front of me. And, yeah, I learned a bit about the illness. And, you know, I got quite well quite quickly, and I looked all right and I felt all right, which usually happens when I put the drugs down for a little period of time. My life rebuilds itself. So, yeah, 30 days comes along, and I've looked a bit in my life and looked back, and I was led to believe that maybe there was something that happened in my life that caused me to be an addict. And so I was searching back in my past, and there was honestly nothing that happened that would cause me to be an addict. You know, I had a pretty good lifestyle. So I'd come out, 30 days came along, felt good, thought I had this again. The very next day I thought it would be all right to go and pick up an eighth of cocaine, and back to where I was before, if not worse, very quickly. And this carried on. The relapses kept carrying on. And then by this time, I had a sponsor. I started going through the steps, and I was at step 4. So yeah, my personal inventory. And I sat on this for 2 weeks, and I was, you know, I met another guy, and I saw him a few times at a meeting, and, you know, we was having a little discussion, and he said to me, "How are you doing?" I said, "Yeah, I'm good." You know, I felt real good. I hadn't used for a little while. And he says, "Dan, you're going to relapse." You know, I sat on step 4 for 2 weeks, and I started getting cocky. He says, "Dan, you're going to relapse." And in a couple of days, lo and behold, there I was again, picked up. So I phoned this guy, and we had a chat, and luckily enough, he was armed with the facts, and he had a very similar experiences as me with relapsing constantly, rebuilding our lives and getting the illusion of power back, and everything's going to be all right, and then relapse again. So yeah, I did the steps, got to step 12, felt all right again, and I relapsed. I was like, fucking hell, what is going on? You know, people were telling me to do the steps and I won't relapse. Well, what happened with me? So I did have an experience as my last relapse, and it was Boxing Day this year. And yeah, Christmas came around, and I had about 70 days. And yeah, the best Christmas for a fucking long time with my family. I was able to be present and, you know, spend some quality time with the family. And then Boxing Day came around, and I was back to where I was before, on my own, using. You know, how insane is that? You know, it's like, I've done the 12 steps. I should be clean, and I should be, you know, I should be immune from this, but I wasn't. And looking back, you know, something changed from that point on. Something clicked, and something happened, and you know, I had a spiritual experience from that point on, and I'm sat here today, you know, hoping that there's a newcomer here that has had the same story as me or relates to the relapses. And, you know, the only reason why I'm here today is for that fact that there might be a newcomer here that can't find any freedom. You know, I'm not sitting here for my own benefit, and I didn't do those steps for my own benefit to stop myself relapsing, because if I did that again, it's just another strategy. You know, it's something that I'm trying to do to stay clean. And, you know, all them times before is proven that I cannot do anything for myself to stay clean and stop myself relapsing. It's proven all them years, you know, no matter how much I meant it. So, yeah, the steps are there to keep me unblocked, to stay spiritually fit, so I can be of best maximum help to others as I possibly can be. And if I don't relapse, it's a byproduct of me helping others. You know, it's a bonus. You know, I'm not waking up in the morning hoping I'm not going to relapse, and you know, I'm not really full of fear of that. It doesn't really cross my mind, and there's a possibility I might relapse. You know, I'm not going to sit here and tell everyone it's going to be all right, because it's not. And you know, there's people that's died recently, and it is a deadly serious illness that we suffer with. You know, we don't really play around with this stuff. It's dangerous. So yeah, I'll leave it on this. Once more, the alcoholic at certain times has no effective mental defence against the first drink. Except in a few rare cases, neither he nor any other human being can provide such a defence. His defence must come from a higher power. I'll leave it there. Cheers.